Chapter 1. Hiding the Inner Child. It's hard to record the distant memory of our beginning, the lease of life into this world as a newborn. I ponder on the idea of whether our first cry in the world is our first traumatic experience, as if what the mother must have had endured wasn't bad enough. I can only imagine the discomfort of the process of having been forced out. As a baby, imagine experiencing sight and all the other senses for the first time. I have no doubt that this moment is one of woe, not just for the parents, but also for the newborn, who is challenged in understanding the world and life itself, between one push and the next. Can you imagine what it must have been like, seeing life outside of the familiar comforts of the womb for the first time? This is not an easy question to answer, but it's one of which, if you dive deep within, can give you a sense of awareness from then to now, and how far you've come and how you have evolved into the person you are today. A person is, or should be, cared for and shown unconditional love. This is the beginning of his, her development, and the internal recognition that he or she is the most significant person in his or her own world. I recall back to when I first witnessed my firstborn crawl, his determination stemming from inspiration. He was eager to approach me, with me having spent hours cuddled up to him. I laid him on the floor, surrounded by toys, so I could attend to the washing up. There he was, coming at me with wide eyes open and a most magnificent smile, full of pride and excitement at his progress. I will never forget that moment. When I think about our first attempt at walking, I'm reminded of babies. What if, like babies, we resisted the thought to say to ourselves, I can't do it. There is no point anymore. I keep failing either way. Perhaps I'm not meant to walk, or I'm good as I am. There is no need for me to walk as I'm comfortable. My parents will aid me with whatever I need either way. In this matter, progress will never occur. We get up and fall, yet we get up again, and we follow this process until we take one step forward, then another, then before you know it, you're riding a bike. This reminds me of the teachings from the Tao. A journey to 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And so it is that the journey of mastery and freedom in any area of our lives begins also with just one step. Curiosity is the essence of human existence. We are eager to learn and explore, especially that which elevates excitement and interest in all of us. That is what makes us different. What has our attention is where we place focus in life, even when we are just babies. We start to talk as toddlers, and it's then that the true adventure begins to unfold, by engaging with the world around us. Fortunately, or unfortunately, we become a byproduct of our environment and the conditioning around us, including the interests, influence, and the emotional and mental support of those whom we grow up. I grew up in what society would call a normal household, but my parents were conditioned by their past, as we all are. And so I soaked up their conditioning also. There is nothing wrong with that, of course, as it made me who I am today. Everyone's upbringing shapes who they are. Decision that we all make, mistakes and choices, the satisfaction and joy or dissatisfaction and distress we feel, are the reality of that which is experienced. But these experiences can shape us so much more than we understand at the time, especially as children. I know this now by carefully examining my own memories. I was born in South Africa, and my parents had a maid who looked after me when they went to work. She would drop me off at school and watch me when I got back. However, when I was home alone, she would lock me in the house. I imagine now that it was to keep me safe, while she went about to run her errands. At 4 or 5 years old, though, I wasn't any wiser. All I noticed was that I was alone and all the doors were locked. I would bang on the door, but no one would come. I would get up on the kitchen counter, look out the window and cry out for help and attention, which made me feel like I wasn't seen or heard at all. Who would have thought that this is where it all began for me? My insecurities blossomed from the lack of security I felt at such a young age, when I did not feel safe in my own home on my own, scared and helpless, needing attention. I came from a loving environment, indeed, but the consequences of certain events, even with the best of intentions for me at the time, had undesirable effects growing up. Along the way, in my childhood, my subconscious took note of whenever I was told that my actions were bad, or the way I expressed myself was wrong, until I believed it was so. It's a consequence that, until I began my healing journey, caused me not to trust myself or my own reactions to events or people. In another childhood memory, my parents had made me a sandwich, and I had decided not to finish it. Instead, I hid it behind the cupboard. Only the child in me at the time knows why, but it's something many of us have done. Once my parents found it, mouldy and stinking up the place, got a few smacks on the bum. Now, I wonder if it was okay for me to be hidden away, but not the food. Was I depreciated more than food? Was food more important than me? Is that what the child in me subconsciously picked up? These memories demonstrate to me the emotional and mental pain, conflict and growth that the inner child in me felt. My point being, these memories are clearly retained as a child had a significant impact on the man I became. It is clear that the emotions embedded in these memories are raw enough to still create vivid experiences in my mind. From mental and emotional pain to physical pain, I learnt in these formative years, as all of us did, that pain has a profound impact on your life. And because it was never addressed at the time, it had a negative consequence, one way or another, for trauma carries on throughout the rest of our lives until we heal it and address it, as I will demonstrate in this book. It is with regret that mindfulness is not a key subject from day one for our children. Poor mental health is a development from the times that we were made unhappy. Our loss and dissatisfaction often stem from trauma. For example, as a child, I might have been yelled at for being silly. For me, I was enjoying myself, but for whatever reason, it might have come across as being naughty, or not normal by their standards, and so they yelled at me. From there, I might perhaps start to distrust the dialogue and humour I have with myself, and start to believe it to be bad. This is the early stages of ambivalence and poor self-talk. Would you agree that children are not always taught how to deal with their emotions or how to process whatever situation they're going through effectively? For example, throwing toys is an excellent way to express anger. Yet instead, we often raise our voices as children doing this, seeing them as stepping out of line. What they then typically do is follow our lead on how we behave and how to behave. They mimic our behaviour. Don't get me wrong, I've yelled at my kids. It's something I'm not proud of. I must admit, I am thankful. I have now learned to comfort my children, and I affirm to myself that my words are soft, gentle and loving. As best as I can, in whichever situation I find myself in with my children, I strive not to get aggravated, no matter how many times I have to repeat myself to them. I make them aware of their choices, and if they would like to do things differently, I explore these options with them. It is my hope that they feel safe and trust that I want what's best for them and give them their own freedom to express themselves. That is now how I'm choosing to teach them about intentions and the responsibility they have over their own actions. Within us all lies the complexity of the mind and inner chemistry of how to control or at least manage our responses. What I have come to learn is that our beliefs are formed by neural connections, and that the bigger the emotion, be it pleasure or pain, the stronger the connection that is formed. An emotion in the mind is connected to an experience perceived, and thus you have a belief. And conformity of our responses is a development from the appraisal of doing right and disapproval of whatever may be going wrong. The responsibility lies with coming to understand how the thought you are having is serving you, and if the emotion you're experiencing does also. Because your body will always tie the emotions and thought back to the original belief. Remember that example I gave you earlier on, being yelled at for being silly? What would come up for me whenever someone had a go at me from then on would be the original feeling that I was wrong for being who I was. This response became amplified and cemented over time. I'll be honest, now and again, it made me pretty temperamental and quick to react, which it turns out is perfectly normal, because that's the mode your body takes when it feels threatened. It always goes back to that first experience. It makes the term "you're too emotional involved" a bit redundant when you come to think about it. This wasn't just helpful for me to understand, but it also gave me insights about my children and everyone else's reactions too. To not be quick to find fault or pass blame, but understand the paradigm of how their brain works. I'll leave you with what I recently discovered about the latest in neuroscience. It is suggested that we only begin to self-regulate our responses at 11 years of age, and that is if we grow up in a healthy environment, and that we cannot actually consciously change our nervous system responses until we are at least 25 years of age. Interesting, right? Up until then, our systems are still reacting and cementing responses. This research has only come through in the last 10 years, so we can see how important it is to begin to understand our brains and processes and how we process experiences for the sake of our children's futures, behaviour, and happiness in life. If you're interested in more, I encourage you to look up the paper Maturation and Adolescence Brain, published in 2013 by Arain et al. With Dover Medical Press Ltd. Imagine if at school we weren't only taught how to solve solutions and challenges, such as mathematics and science, but our evolution and inner workings too, to think that our own thoughts are nothing but a matter of neural processes, which consist of past experiences that are attached by emotions, and our everyday circumstances, or a combination of connections. How fascinating to come to understand that our emotions and brain activity are, in short, a chemical reaction. Now, I'm no scientist, but let me share with you my own insights on the research I found that fascinated me. The architecture of the brain is a living organism made up of mechanics that are all engineered to work together. These consist of three main components: the forebrain, the midbrain, and the hindhead. The complexity involved in the communication by sending signals throughout the brain, down the spinal cord, and then throughout the system is in itself its own study. But something infinitely more complicated emerges: human consciousness. It emerges on the interface between three components of behavior: communication, play, and the use of tools, so that we may engage with our world. I believe these tools are essential to our inner child who holds the curious mind. I'll express consciousness in two separate parts: the superconscious and the subconscious. The subconscious I see as our higher faculties. With attention, we can work on evolving our higher faculties, so we can be of our highest good, in connection with Source, flowing through us, God if you will, or the universe. Essentially, it's the best version of you in a super state of awareness of not only yourself, but in the presence of the essence of your highest expectation of yourself and your higher self, and the I am, in the present moment of awareness. What are your higher faculties, might I add? Well, your faculties are your perception, your will, your imagination, your memory, your reason, and your intention. These, I found out, can all be developed with intention and perseverance at any age. The subconscious mind is where it gets really interesting. There is a saying in the metaphysical science community: it's as if the universe played a joke on us, because everything we come to understand, even now as adults, is all that we have soaked up from childhood. Every belief, how you see the world, your values, your attitude, how you see yourself, how you conduct yourself, is a simple programming of the nurturing and conditioning to date. Take the food you like, for example. Somewhere along the line, if you look deep enough, you will come to learn that not only your mother and your father might have enjoyed the same food as you do, but that someone far down your ancestral line liked it too, and so it was passed on. There is so much wisdom in this field of consciousness. It's one that we take for granted, unaware that our power and capabilities, because we're not aware of our conditioning and that we can, with effort, recondition ourselves. If you think about it, who you think you are ain't you at all, but a byproduct of your environment and lots of people. It's unfortunate, really, that growing up, we come to believe that we must abandon the child within us. We tell our children to stop acting so childishly. When are they going to grow up? They're so immature, etc. Sure, there are responsibilities to be met, and the sense of having to conform into an identity which is professional and responsible. There is a time and place, for example, knowing when it is appropriate to indulge in sexual behavior, making sure you are contributing to society with a job, etc. But these things do not need to come at the cost of your inner child. If the inner child in you is neglected and you're not aware of your own soul, imbalance comes to exist, and the unhealed trauma you have been carrying with you will transpire into forming bad habits, even disease, as it all stems from dis-ease in your mind. It's at this point that the adventure of life soon becomes one where we go through more hardships than are necessary, and we suffer from one necessity to another in survival mode, a mundane routine with responsibilities that we are led to perceive as reality. We then interact with different personas and characteristic traits of others throughout life, as if it isn't bad enough that you are already letting your inner child and soul down. You then inevitably and regrettably let others down also, by not being true to yourself. This creates a vicious circle that makes us feel like we're not good enough. Because if you point the finger and have the belief that this ain't good enough, that ain't good enough, eventually you will point that finger right back at yourself. It's okay. What matters is that we bring awareness to ourselves and stop conforming to others, what they expect and impose on us. More often than not, others only mirror their insecurities onto us, so we lower our standards to theirs. The key is to always work on yourself, to put yourself first and align yourself to the best version of you. What if I told you that everything was always working out for you? That you should believe that things were always working out for you? When you understand what it is that you truly want, your soul's desires, you can see how everything is working out for you in your favor. It's all about your attitude. If you feel like nothing's going right for you, if you are beating yourself up however you choose to do so, then guess what? You are putting yourself down. Pick yourself up. It's okay to slip, by all means, but always be there for yourself. Imagine your inner child falling and now lending a helping hand. Help yourself. You can choose to believe in magic and choose to be riding on a magical carpet throughout life, or you can think of it all as nonsense. That's your choice. Although let me tell you this, if you feel like you are never satisfied, you will never be. Perhaps you have been told that you act like the entire world revolves around you. Well, let me tell you right now that this is 100% a fact. This is your life, so own it. If you are told that life is not supposed to be all fun and games, boy, have they got it wrong. Yes, it is, my friend. We are playing the game of life. It is a satisfaction factor of life which we all came into existence. Remember that chocolate ice cream analogy that I spoke about before in the introduction? We must be selfish with our own self. And I don't mean the act of being selfish towards others. I mean the act of being selfish with our own self is knowing what we truly want and what we are prepared to accept in finding alignment with ourselves. When we connect to our inner child, we can actually in turn be selfless. In hindsight, this is what I came out to find out for myself only recently. That selflessness is no bad thing at all. You're free to express yourself. Selflessness and selfishness exist on a spectrum, and it's up to us to understand it and think of it, not in binary terms, but as one benefiting the other, and vice versa. With that comes the knowledge of boundaries and what are you willing to stand up for, put up with. I will get through that throughout this book. So let me ask you, what is it that you want out of life? What is it that you have to contribute to the world? For therein lies your selfless service to the world, the magic of being in the receiving end of abundance to feel the course of life surging through your body. It's a means of which you wake up in the morning. When we cooperate who we truly meant to be and what we truly want out of life, we give back to the universe tenfold and receive in kind. Life truly is what you make of it. But of course, as children we knew this. It's only when the conditioning begins that we forget this fact. In this story, I'll take you through the journey of my own conditioning, how it manifested my life to my detriment, and how I broke it to get back to this truth. My hope is that you don't have to experience the hardships that I did in order to get back to my own truth. I would like to ask you to take a minute to stop for a moment and answer these questions for yourself. Who am I? What is it that I want from life? What does my heart truly desire, and who do I want to be? What would you like your life to look like for you, and how would that make you feel? If you were to shut yourself away from the world for a moment, no distractions, and have a heart-to-heart with yourself. Self-inquire. If you were to take time and ask yourself the questions above, then follow with the questions below, whilst imagining living your perfect life, what would that look like? Be as elaborate and as descriptive as you can. Consider creating a blueprint of what you want your life to look like in the near future. For example, what are your thoughts first thing when you wake up? Where would you live? What does your house look like? What car do you drive? What time do you get up? What is your routine and schedule like? What do you have for breakfast? What does the mundane stuff look like, sorting out your kids, for example? How about the rest of the day? What do you do for work? Are there any chores you need to do, or do you hire someone else to do them? What do you have for lunch? Who would you eat with? What does your body look like, and how do you feel about it? Are you personally fulfilled? What do you do for love? Sorry, what do you love about yourself? Do you feel a sense of purpose? What do you care about? Have you got any hobbies? Have you got any investments? Are you still learning? What are your attributes? How many holidays would you like? What do you dress like? What do you smell like? What is business like for you? What do you offer your clients? What are your clients like? What are your relationships like? What are your friendships like? What is family life like? What do you like about each other? What do you do to bond? What do you talk about over dinner? What do you get up to in the evening? Who would you like to do it? Who would you do it with? What would your thoughts be like as you drop off to sleep? What do you do over the weekends? How do you feel about life, and how do you feel about yourself? What are your prime emotions? Finally, how does that compare to now? Is it worth your time investing towards making that reality come true? What are you going to do about it? Decide right now to envision your ideal life. Come up with the craziest thing you can come up with. Your ideal and perfect life, if you will. Don't let my examples limit you from exploring more possibilities and outcomes. Be as elaborate and descriptive as you can to suit the version of your future, and go as far as your imagination can stretch. From there, take action and be grateful for the ideas that bless you. This is how you can begin to connect and develop your relationship with your inner child and fantasize, as we once did as children, about how life may look as we grow up. From there, you break your fantasies into theories, and theories are then broken down into goals that you then work up to complete and then lead your ideal life. As adults, we have a habit of feeling like a deck of cards have already been shuffled and dealt with, and that's our fate. I know that's how I thought, but this couldn't be further from the truth, at least. It's not once we start to imagine again and develop tunnel vision on those desires. Create something that you can get excited about first thing in the morning when you wake up, and smile about as you head off to sleep. Think about it often. Do you recall what I said about creating neural connections in the mind? By allowing yourself to envision your dreams in great detail, your subconscious mind begins to stretch awake and exercise like a muscle on how to make that dream a reality for you. Then you could start strategizing and, most importantly, begin to take action. See, the world is your oyster, my friend, and the gift is you in the form of a pearl. Only if you choose to believe it is so. That's chapter 1. Hiding the inner child. The lockdown of self-love. How to make suffering work for you. Oh, I'm so glad that's over and done with. Do you know how many takes I've done? Wow. I've done like 10 plus takes. I kept making mistakes. Getting my words jumbled up. Getting stressed from starting again. So I took a break. Mate, the amount of times I screamed from the top of my lungs. Ah! So yeah, I took a break. And I just told myself I'm just going to go with it. If I make mistakes, hey, I can't keep doing this. I'm driving myself mental. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope the exercise at the end was as helpful as it was for me. You know, if you come to think about it, the most important relationship you will ever have is with yourself. It's sad, really, because if that's true, the trouble is that we make no time for ourselves. See, your thoughts and feelings matter. Your life matters. We all have a big, beautiful life ahead of us. Of course, it doesn't help if we don't help ourselves, right? If you've got any comments, feel free to express them. And if you haven't subscribed already, do so you don't miss the next chapter. See you later. Bye for now.